Panic alarms are going off in WNBA offices, and not because of another missed layup. Experts are warning that 2026 could be the last year we see Caitlin Clark in the league. Yes, you heard that right. And no, the panic isn't coming from the players. But before we start, how do you think the WNBA survives without its biggest draw? Comment your thoughts below.
I feel like we're quickly headed towards a scenario where there's going to be a lockout in the WNBA. And this is something I've talked about a few times because I think the players, they just have a much higher perception around their dollar value worth than the league is actually worth. And some of this stuff will work itself out, right? Like if you look at the WNBA, attendance, viewership, like merchandise sale, everything's up and to the right. Sponsorships, they're making a lot more money, TV rights, everything. But most people don't understand the dynamic between the NBA owning a large chunk of the business, the owners owning a large chunk of the revenue stream, and the players are out there every day. I mean, you just look at what was happening in that 60 Minutes interview. Aaliyah Boston said that she wants commas in her paycheck, $1 million+ essentially, right? And that's not happening anytime soon in the WNBA. Like, it's just not going to happen. A'ja Wilson makes $200,000 a year. And we're going to get to a point where that's going to set in as reality. And I think the players are going to have a really hard time dealing with that because they're going on the road and they're seeing these sold out arenas. But the economics of the league just don't give that opportunity.
Let's get straight to it. Right now, the WNBA is acting like it is time. Like it can drag its feet in these CBA negotiations and somehow still hold all the cards. Meanwhile, every signal from people who actually understand how this business works says the same thing. The clock is ticking, and Caitlin Clark might not be here past 2026. And this isn't just random Twitter talk. We're talking actual industry insiders, people who look at the money, the contracts, the media rights, warning that if things keep going this way, Clark could walk, not retire, not fade out, but simply take her talent elsewhere because the league's decisions make staying less appealing.
As you guys know, negotiations have essentially stalled for a new collective bargaining agreement in the WNBA. For the first time ever, WNBA players think they have leverage. Key word, think. Now, in their defense, they do have leverage in the short term. The problem is, if this short-term leverage is used and the 2026 WNBA season is canceled, it could have devastating long-term impacts on pretend basketball.
Why 2026? Simple. That's when the current CBA expires. And the way things are shaping up, there's a very real chance the players' demands and the league stance can't meet in the middle. Normally, that's just boring sports business talk. But here's the kicker. Caitlin Clark isn't just another player in the WNBA. She is the player. The entire surge in ratings, attendance, merch sales, all of it leans heavily on her second-year momentum and projected future. The WNBA is riding a one-person wave. And instead of locking in that wave for the long haul, they're staring at short-term pressure from both their own players and outside competitor Unrivaled, which is waving big checks at the same talent the WNBA needs to keep its relevance. Let's break down where this mess started. The players see the spike in ratings. They see sold-out fever games. They see Clark's jersey flying off the shelves and the media giving the WNBA more attention than it's had in decades. And their conclusion? It's time to get paid, and not just a little paid. We're talking demands to take salaries from around $150,000 to $1 million.
WNBA players right now, they are looking at details like ratings, attendance, social media impressions, increased mainstream interest. They are using that as leverage in an attempt to justify a massive increase in their minimum wage salaries. Most people get a raise, they're asking for 10%, maybe 20%. WNBA players, they are demanding to go from $150,000 a year.
Now, in a vacuum, sure, it's easy to say, pay them, they deserve it. But that's detail thinking. The big picture says the WNBA's financial model isn't stable enough to guarantee that kind of jump. You can't promise someone a penthouse salary when the building's still under construction. The NHL example is important here. That league had decades of history, established fan bases, and TV deals, and still, when they canceled the season in 2004, 0-5 over labor disputes, the impact was brutal. Their broadcast presence shrank. Sponsors cooled off. The league clawed back over years, but it never hit the same cultural peak. That was the NHL. Now imagine the WNBA, which doesn't have that kind of cushion, skipping an entire season in 2026. That's not a bump in the road. That's a crater Here's where Unrivaled enters the picture. On paper, it's a secondary women's basketball league co-founded by some big WNBA names. In reality, it's also functioning as a player's leverage. Top stars are making more there in 2 months than they make in the WNBA for a whole season. And last year, Unrivaled even offered Caitlin Clark over $1 million to join them. Do you think that offer gets smaller by 2026? Not a chance. This is exactly why insiders are saying 2026 could be Clark's last year in the WNBA. If the CBA talks collapse and the season is canceled, players like Clark have options, and lucrative ones. The WNBA doesn't. If Clark walks, so do the rating spikes, the merch surges, and the casual fan interest that's been building since her rookie year. And here's the WNBA's problem. It's acting like it has the same negotiating position as the NBA or NFL. Those leagues have the brand power to weather a holdout. The WNBA has Caitlin Clark. And what? A handful of names that might get attention during the Olympics? This is not a deep bench of cultural icons.
According to players in the WNBA, we are owed this money. Pay us what we're owed. Pay us what we're owed. Yippee! The only thing WNBA players are thinking about is getting paid now. They're not thinking about the future. They're not thinking about the long-term viability of the league. They're not thinking about what happens if this sudden increase in growth is not sustainable.
The players think Unrivaled success proves they have sustainable leverage. But success here is relative. Sure, they reported $27 million in revenue in their first year, but profit? Zero. They're banking on media partners like TNT to keep writing big checks. But if the numbers don't hold up, those checks disappear, and so does that safety net the players think they have. And this is where Clark's role becomes so dangerous for the WNBA's future. She's not just the face of the league. She's the reason the average sports fan even knows the WNBA's schedule. The fever around her rookie year didn't fade in year 2. In fact, it grew. She's shown she can carry not just a team, but an entire league's attention. If she leaves, there's no next Clark waiting in the wings. If you want proof, look at the attendance drops in games she doesn't play. Look at the ratings when the Fever aren't on the broadcast schedule. That's not a league thriving across the board. That's one player propping it up.
Brought this up, so I'm just going to double down on it. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to sign more than 1 year. Any free agent this year will not sign more than 1 year because of the CBA.
Yeah.
When 2026 comes around, the entire league will be free agents except for people on their rookie deals. I don't even know, like, how does that even work? I don't, to the GMs, like.
GMs, assemble.
Good luck.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough.
So, when insiders say 2026 could be the last year we see Clark in the WNBA, they're not predicting some graceful retirement at 24. They're warning that the business side could push her to take her talent elsewhere, where the money is better, the schedule is lighter, and the off-court headaches are smaller. Now, let's talk about why this possibility has people panicking inside the league office, even if they won't say it out loud. The WNBA's recent growth metrics are fragile. Sponsors are interested because Clark's involved. Networks are paying because Clark's games pull in viewership spikes. Merchandise sales are up because her name's on the back. Remove that and you don't just slow growth, you slam it into reverse. The smart move will be to lock Clark in with a league-friendly contract before the CBA's showdown, something that gives her enough to stay without wrecking the league's finances. But pride and bad math seem to be steering the ship. The league doesn't want to set a precedent that one player can make exponentially more than the rest, even if that one player is the reason everyone's making more in first place. Meanwhile, the players see Unrivaled not as a risky startup, but as proof of concept that they can make big money outside the WNBA. And maybe they can for a few years. But if Unrivaled folds and the WNBA's brand is taking a hit from a canceled season, that's not leverage anymore. That's 2 burned bridges and nowhere to play. The insiders making these 2026 predictions aren't anti-WNBA. They're realists. They see a league risking everything over a CBA gamble while its most valuable asset has clear, high-paying alternatives. And if you think Clark doesn't notice the tug-of-war, think again. Athletes at her level don't just want a paycheck. They want stability, growth, and a league that treats their presence like the business engine it is. In short, if 2026 comes, the CBA talks fail, and the season gets axed, there's a better-than-decent chance Clark takes the Unrivaled money or another outside opportunity. And if that happens, the WNBA isn't just losing a star. It's losing the reason casual fans even bother to check the scores. For those saying the league will find another star, here's the harsh truth. Stars like Clark don't appear every year. Her college-to-pro transition brought in audiences that never watched before. She's not replaceable to end sports business. Losing a replaceable asset because you misread your leverage is the kind of mistake you don't come back from. That's why the word panic fits here. It's not panic because of a slow start to the season. It's panic because the clock is counting down to 2026, and the league's top player might not be wearing a WNBA jersey after that. If that prediction comes true, the WNBA as we know it won't look the same, if it's even around in its current form. Now, let's put Caitlin Clark's second-year reality under a microscope, because that's where the danger for the WNBA gets really obvious. She's not a rookie anymore. She's already carried a struggling fever team into relevance, survived the endless targeting by defenders, and built a media presence bigger than the league's official channels. She's done all that in less than 2 full seasons. Her stat line is one thing. Her impact is another. Even in games where she's not lighting up the scoreboard, Clark's presence changes how defenses play, how broadcasts are scheduled, and how ticket prices are set. When she's in the building, the WNBA feels like a pro league. When she's not, it too often feels like a sideshow trying to fill the seats. That's not a knock on other players. It's the reality of star-driven sports. The NBA learned this decades ago with Magic, Bird, and Jordan. The NFL learned it with quarterbacks. But here's the difference. Those leagues built systems that kept the product watchable even when the top names were injured or gone. The WNBA hasn't done that yet. That's the core why experts see 2026 as such a danger point. If the CBA fight gets ugly and the season is lost, Clark doesn't have to wait it out. She can go play in Unrivaled for massive money. She can play overseas, where the paychecks are fatter and the travel headaches are fewer. She can even take a year to rehab, rest, and do endorsement work that probably pays more than her WNBA salary. Anyway, let's talk money math. Unrivaled is dangling $1M plus offers for Clark. The WNBA's current max salary is under $250,000. Even if the league caves and bumps that by 50%, it's still not close. The only way the WNBA competes is by selling her on the bigger picture, the chance to build a legacy, to be the foundational league that lasts. But here's the problem. You can't sell someone the future when you might not even have a 2026 season. And it's not just a pay gap, it's a respect gap. Clark's seen how the WNBA's veteran culture has treated her. From the foul line hard hits to the petty comments and pressers, the welcome has been mixed at best. If you're her, you have to ask, why fight through that for less money and more games when you have other options? Meanwhile, Unrivaled is making every public move to look like the player's ally, announcing raises, adding roster spots, giving stars direct promotional roles. They're saying, we'll pay you more, play you less, and treat you like the main event. For a player already carrying a heavy load in the WNBA, that's tempting, especially if the league can't guarantee labor peace. And here's the killer scenario no one in WNBA leadership wants to talk about. What if Clark leaves and Unrivaled doesn't survive long-term? That's the double disaster. The league loses her now. The other league folds later, and the WNBA's brand is too damaged to bring her back. By then, sponsors have moved on, casual fans have stopped checking scores, and the WNBA is back to begging the NBA to keep the lights on. This is why panic is the right word. It's not because anyone thinks Clark hates the WNBA or wants to ditch her fans. It's because the business decisions being made now can make staying a logical choice for her by 2026. And if that happens, the fallout will be brutal to SO. Will Caitlin Clark still be in a WNBA jersey after 2026? Or will the league's own missteps push her out the door? The experts have their prediction. What's yours? Drop it in the comments.